two current topics because I really want your take on them. One is a personal irritant. So it's tipping. When I go to a nice restaurant with my wife or family or whatever, obviously I expect a tip. But now I'm showing up at coffee shops. I'm showing up at multiple places where I'm heavily encouraged to tip because they spin the monitor around on me every American.
And they make dead eye contact with you.
And all of a sudden I've got to make this choice. And I think we've all experienced that. But in all seriousness, is that just nothing more than an upcharge right now? It's a crafty way to get a little bit more money.
Gosh, I mean...
How do you feel about that?
Okay, when you're at a restaurant, sit-down restaurant.
Yeah.
I believe the difference between a good tip and an extraordinary tip is not that much. I always like to leave an extraordinary tip.
Sure.
When I'm standing up and I'm asked to tip, I'm still conflicted about it.
Right.
I mean... The reality is, in most of these places, the restaurant industry is not the most profitable industry, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And as a dining public, we are not actually prepared to pay as much as what things should cost.
Right.
In order to, like, it's funny, if you were to poll a group of people, everyone would say, you, McDonald's are underpaying your workforce, and don't raise the price of a cheeseburger by $1, right? Like people want their cake and they want to eat it too. And so tips, I think, have become a way to take a lot of people who work really hard and try to get them a little closer to earning a living wage without alienating their fan base by charging too much. But then in other places, it feels like it's just predatory.
Yeah.
I, having been in that industry for a really long time, generally err on the side of just sucking it up and tipping. Mm-hmm. But what I do, this is my rule, if there's people where they say, and it's going to ask you a question, and the moment they flip that thing around, they turn their back and go somewhere else. I don't feel the emotional pressure to tip. When they do that, I always tip.
Okay.
When they look at me and make me feel awkward about it, sometimes I'm like, no. I do not like the spirit of this transaction anymore. Not today.
I like that, yeah.
And because I just do think, like, a tip is meant to be this discretionary added thing given in appreciation.
Yeah.
Not mandated out of some sense of responsibility. Yeah. And I don't like when people make that experience feel overly transactional because it undermines the very core of what it's meant to represent.
Yeah. Is the state of service, I read articles about this, I see things online, curious your take, is the state of service across the country, in your opinion, has it gone down since the pandemic? Has it stayed the same and we're just looking for something to gripe about? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, in proper restaurants, it struggled a little bit. I think during the pandemic, a lot of people left the restaurant industry and went into other industries, and it's going to take a while to rebuild. Here's the thing. The state of service in America is far bigger than restaurants, right? That's airlines. Right. And is a symptom of the state of leadership in America. Mm-hmm. Service is good at companies where leadership is good.
Yes.
Service is bad at companies where leadership is bad.
It's a great statement.
And so I just feel like it's an unhealthy conversation to have because I've heard the same thing. Service is declining in America. No.
Leadership is declining.
Let's treat the underlying illness, which is that leadership is declining.
Yes.
And people are not giving their teams the tools required to succeed. Mm. And those tools are either training or inspiration.
Yes.
Or empowerment, whatever it ends up being. Well, but I think when leaders complain that the service in their companies is not good, they need to hold up a mirror because it ultimately starts with them.
That's exactly right. Okay, one other current topic. It's in the news every day in some form or fashion. You and I emailed this weekend, and it was one of the things that I had prepared to ask you about. And when I said, "Hey, what are you what are you hot on right now?" and you're like, "I want to talk about AI and the now emerging importance of the human touch." Talk about AI and how important you think that human connection is going to be because of AI.
Yeah, listen, AI, I feel like, is the cherry on top of something that's been happening since COVID, honestly. I mean, the pandemic, I think, was an important reminder to everyone of our innate and basic human need for connection with other people. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of people, a lot of introverts in my life who didn't think they needed people until they were deprived of people. And they're
right.
like, gosh, I actually really need this. And then what followed? Hybrid and remote work. And then the digital transformation, which we've been going through for a while now, right?
Yeah.
Like once upon a time, we used to go to stores to buy toilet paper. Now we go on Amazon, right? And now it's being particularly exaggerated through AI. It's all led us to this place where I just really believe the human moments need to be as humanly possible. Not just because it's good for the soul, but also because it's good for business. They are less frequent. They are more fleeting.
Yes.
And that makes them precious. And if you waste one of them, it's irresponsible. And I think they become more human when you're more intentional in pursuit of them, and that is at the very core of hospitality. I think AI in many ways is going to be actually great for hospitality. I think it's going to take a lot of the stuff that I've done for years in smaller environments and make those things more scalable, but only if it's used as a tool in a human being's toolkit.
That's right.
As opposed to something that completely replaces human beings.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great distinction there. Not a substitute for the human touch, but used by the human touch.
Yeah.
It's really good.